that's my thoughts on Ben White. Right now, we can go into what I would say my projected final lineups are. Now, this has changed. I wouldn't say significantly, but it has changed even over the past 24 hours. Even over the past 12 hours, it's changed. A lot of the players I would say are pretty much the same. I'm going to start with Pickford in goal. And now, goalkeeper is kind of a soft spot for this team. We don't have a world-class keeper. Even with Nick Pope fit, we don't have a world-class keeper. But even if Nick Pope was fit, I'd be more inclined to pick Pickford than I would Nick Pope. And there's a couple of reasons behind that. One, I think his distribution is significantly better than Nick Pope's. This England team plays a lot with their feet. They play a lot kind of passing it around the back, and the keeper is involved a lot. And I think you want the best kind of general keeper that can play with their feet the best in terms of dealing with the pressure and stuff the most, because a lot of the times the keeper will start the press break, get the team out of trouble with their feet. And Pickford is the best for that. Dean Henderson for me hasn't impressed me enough for Man United to be put in there, and his distribution is not as good as Pickford's. You can make legitimate arguments that he's got a mistake in him, which obviously he has. I mean, we've seen it for Everton on multiple occasions. He's a good shot stopper. I don't know whether he's better than Dean Henderson, but I think the fact that he hasn't let an England team down would kind of convey reassurance to me, because, as you know, a lot of players can play completely differently into their international teams than they do to their club teams, and it works both ways. Jordan Pickford has played substantially better for England than he has done for Everton, and on the other side, Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard played substantially better for their clubs than they did for England. You can make arguments all you want about the system and them not liking each other, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. Now, left back and right back are kind of weird positions for me, and it depends on the formation. For this 4-3-3 formation, I would go with a left back of Luke Shaw, and that's because to me, Luke Shaw has played pretty much the entire season in a 4-back, whereas Ben Chilwell's played it in a 5-back. As the left wing back. I think he'll partner well with Harry Maguire here, which we'll just end up putting him here. He kind of links up well coming forward as well, and I think defensively he's been the best left back in the Premier League this year, and he's definitely been in the best form of his career. So why not reward that? Yes, Chilwell has been playing well as well, but I think Luke Shaw's just been playing better generally. And I think he'll do better against those better right wingers and stuff. I think he has more experience in terms of dealing with those players. Yes, you can argue that Ben Chilwell had a great Champions League final, but a Champions League final is one game. I know it's a very important game, but would you rather pick a player that's been more consistent over the season or more consistent for the last 5 or 6 games? Next to Harry Maguire, I'm going to go with John Stones. Before I go on, I think if Harry Maguire's not fit, which I can't imagine he is, especially for the Croatia game, I'm going to go with Tyrone Mings here. And I think Tyrone Mings, I know there's a lot of talk about Tyrone Mings having mistaken in him, but for me, he's been impressive for England. I also prefer a left-footed centre-back on this side, because I think it offers more distribution purposes. But Tyrone Mings, for me, has matured over the past 12 months especially, and I'd rather have him out here than Connor Cody, especially. And I definitely would rather have a proper centre-back that plays centre-back week in, week out in a 4-back, rather than including a Kyle Walker in here. So I think Tyrone Mings would be better in this spot. John Stones, there's not really much to say about John Stones. He's had probably one of the best seasons of his career. He's learnt alongside Ruben Diaz. And I think he played well. He plays well for England in the World Cup, and I think he'll play well again in the Euros. Now, the right back slot, it's between Kyle Walker and Kieran Trippier. I think Trippier offers more going forward than Kyle Walker does, but at the same time, Walker is better defensively and has that recovery pace. I'd be inclined to say I would put Kieran Trippier here. I think he's played better this season than Kyle Walker has. Trippier also adds that set piece ideas, set piece ability as well. I think Trippier playing alongside Diego Simeone as well. Well, not alongside him, but for the same Diego Simeone team. He kind of has a lot of experience dealing with really kind of world-class left wingers and world-class systems as well, which we're going to have to deal with if we are going to go far in this tournament. Now, in this 4-3-3 is kind of a lot like the Liverpool 4-3-3 in the fact that the centre mids kind of have to be purely, absolutely box to box. In the fact that they can join forward and they will run the most out of anybody in this team. The number 8 here, which will be a traditional number 6. I don't know why number 6 is left wing up here. I'm just going to go with Declan Rice. I think Rice has been, I would say, the best England out and out central midfielder. If you don't include Mason Mount as an out and out central midfielder, he's more of a cam. And I think he's going to have a fantastic tournament. He holds the CDM role well, and I think he'll lock this down, just completely lock this down. Number 9. Now this is where it kind of gets tricky. I'd be inclined to say a fit Jordan Henderson goes here. Jordan Henderson plays this role for Liverpool. He knows the system better than anybody else in this team, and he'll offer that leadership role. He can offer the ability to play long passes as well out to these guys here, get people out of trouble. And I think this England team is going to need a lot of experience, especially in this midfield, and especially if you include who I'm going alongside him, which would be Mason Mount. These two, yes, they have they've been friends and whatever since they were 11. If he's not fit, well, then we just get this out of the way. If he's not fit, Jude Bellingham goes here. Yeah, but Jude Bellingham can go in here as well. I think Jude Bellingham's been fantastic, especially in a centre mid box to box role. But if we go to Mason Mount, I think Mason Mount offers more in terms of he can float into this cam role. He can still defensively track back pretty well, but I prefer him going forward a little bit more. And if he goes forward, you can kind of imagine this scenario where Jordan Henderson and Declan Rice kind of slot up into a 2 CDM role. Now, the reason why I've gone with this is because I know we've talked about a lot, and I've talked about a lot, about Jack Grealish playing as a cam, but he's played at cam in the last 2 games. And for me, yes, he has the ball a lot, and yes, he gets fouled a lot, but I don't think he has enough support when he plays at cam. And I think playing in the more natural position of left wing, I know he doesn't strictly play at left wing for Aston Villa. He kind of floats all around the place. But playing at left wing majority for England, he has that ability to cut inside, his ability to win fouls in the box to get those penalties, which Harry Kane will score. So I'd rather have Jack Grealish at a left wing than I would at cam. I think it's more natural position, and it allows us to kind of stack our midfield a little bit better in terms of dealing with the other side of football. So yeah, Jack Grealish will go there. You can make an argument that Phil Foden can go there as well. I think Phil Foden's had a fantastic season. I think he's probably had just arguably the same standard of season as Jack Grealish has had if you take into account the injuries and stuff. But Phil Foden, again, doesn't have to strictly play at left wing. I know, I know Pep Guardiola's played him at left wing, but it's a completely different system compared to this 4-3-3 that are most likely to play. So Phil Foden can play in this Mason Mount role. He could play in this Jordan Henderson role. He can kind of pretty much play every. He could even play right wing. You could have Phil Foden out here with Jack Grealish here and Harry Kane up top. I wouldn't be inclined to say that that's a good idea, but I wouldn't have any arguments to have Phil Foden here instead of Jack Grealish, or Phil Foden here instead of Mason Mount, or Phil Foden here instead of Jordan Henderson. It doesn't really matter to me. They place roles in a system, and I think you play all 4 of these roles here. Number 10. Now, this is where I'm going to have to preface the point of this is a system and not playing the 11 best players. Obviously, I do not think that the player I'm about to pick here is the best player in this position. Sancho has performed the best out of any kind of player, any other attacking player that isn't named Harry Kane this season. And just because he's in the Bundesliga, people don't realise that. However, I prefer Sancho coming in off the left for Dortmund. I think he plays a lot better coming in off the left, and I don't think he'll get anywhere near the team if he plays in this left wing role. Marcus Rashford can play out here on this right wing, but again, he plays better on this left wing. Now, let me say this again. I do not think this player is the best player in this position. I do not think that. However, will he play the best role? I do think that. This is where you have to compromise as a team. This is where you have to compromise. You want the ability of carrying the ball forward that has Phil Foden or Jack Grealish. You want to have the ability of having Mason Mount tracking forward and back. You want to have the defensive surety, either a Jude Bellingham and a Declan Rice, or a Jordan Henderson and a Declan Rice in the centre mid role. You want to have the ability to play Kane in the best way he plays possible. Now, how do you do that? You do that by Kane having an outlet pass for somebody to pass to. He plays better when he has this false nine, he has somebody running onto it. Jack Grealish and Phil Foden don't have that express pace. Unfortunately, Raheem Sterling does have that express pace. Now, why would I think I'd go with Raheem Sterling? Raheem Sterling is a more natural right winger. You can completely make an argument that Marcus Rashford plays here. I would be completely fine with that. However, Marcus Rashford, I think, plays a lot better on the left than he does on the right. And I think he's got less experience than Raheem Sterling has in the England side. And more importantly, Raheem Sterling has played more games with Harry Kane for England than Marcus Rashford has done. And experience is what you're going to need in a tournament. Again, let me say this again. I do not think Raheem Sterling is better than Jadon Sancho. I do not think he is better than Marcus Rashford. I do not think he's better than Jack Grealish. I do not think he's better than Phil Foden. Do I think he'll play the best role as a right winger in this team? Yes, I do. That's unfortunately how it goes. Do you want the team to do well, or do you want the 11 best players to play? That's how it goes. And if you want a player like Phil Foden or Jack Grealish in here, you don't have that outlet pass. You have to have one of these positions has to have express pace. Has to. Because express pace can get you out of a lot of scenarios. I'll take you through a scenario here. So say we are defending a deep block against Croatia, or against maybe Portugal, or against Spain. Somebody that we're going to end up playing. Now, one of these players here, so say Luke Shaw maybe picks up the ball here, or Trippier picks up the ball here, or Henderson picks up the ball here, or Rice picks up the ball here, or Mount, somebody picks up the ball here, and you need a quick outlet pass. Who are you going to rather have chasing after the ball? You're going to rather have Raheem Sterling, or you're going to want to have Jack Grealish, or you're going to want to have Harry Kane? Who is more likely to get to this ball? I think Raheem Sterling is more likely to get to that ball because he's the fastest. Now, when you have that, you can start a counter-attack. Raheem Sterling gets himself in attacking positions a lot. His finishing is just a little bit suspect. But we're not going to want Raheem Sterling to do the finishing. We're going to want Harry Kane, Jack Grealish, Phil Foden, basically somebody else to do the finishing. Raheem Sterling is more likely to get us in that position to make that pass, or to make that decision, to make that run down the line and then make that pass, rather than one of these two, because he's just simply faster than everybody else and he has that experience. Complete sound argument that you could have Marcus Rashford here. That's absolutely fine. I wouldn't be against that. You can, again, make an argument that you could, instead of having Mount here, you could maybe have Jack Grealish here. So you could have Jack Grealish here, playing as a more attacking cam, with these two kind of floating in here. Then you could have the license to push Marcus Rashford out here on the left, and maybe Phil Foden out here, or Raheem Sterling out here. Not Raheem Sterling, or Jadon Sancho out here, alongside Harry Kane. But the point remains the same. You have to have express pace at one of these positions. You do. Because tournaments are not, the tournament games are not won by multiple goals. They're won by tight results, and they're won by kind of one specific scenario within maybe 30 seconds in the game. A counter-attack, a deflected cross, a set piece. Just a specific scenario that ends up turning the game. You're not going to see a lot of 4-0s. You're not going to see a lot of 4-3s. You're going to see a lot of 1-0s, a lot of 2-1s, 2-0s, 1-alls, maybe. That's what you're going to see. You're not going to see a lot of goals in this tournament. You are going to see specific games where there's a specific scenario in the second half, in the first half, just where there's going to be an opportunity to score. And if you take that goal, maybe you don't see another goal in the game. Maybe you don't even see another meaningful attack by that team in the game. But if they end up winning the game, they're going to end up benefiting, It's just how tournament football works. I think people have this scenario in their head, have this image in their head that we're going to have to score 5 or 6 goals to like every single game in order to be successful in this tournament. That's just not how it works. That's just not how it works. We could go through history of tournament winners in the past 20 years. That is not how these players have played, how these teams have played. Brazil, biggest example of this, Brazil have had the best, most flamboyant attacking offensive lineup in terms of international football we've seen. 1998, 2002, we had Ronaldinho, we had Kaká, we had R9, you had Dani Alves, you had dynamic defenders in terms of that case. But that's they didn't beat France in 98. Well, they didn't beat France. They did beat Italy. They didn't beat Spain. Those teams won it. Italy won it by playing 1,200 defenders. France won it by their most despite the fact they had the most dynamic lineup, with Zinedine Zidane, Thierry Henry, David Trezeguet, Robert Pires. They played the most boring football. But did they win the tournament? Yes, they did. Spain, again, played 6 central midfielders instead of Fernando Torres, instead of David Villa. Did they win the tournament? Yes, they did. Germany played the most boring football in the world. They used to lump it up to Miroslav Klose or Mario Gomez. Did they win tournaments? Yes, they did. That is the overall key. France especially. France have the most ridiculous offensive squad, probably of any international team in the world. Do the French like the way they play football? Absolutely not. They hate the way they play football. But do they accept it? Yes, because they win games, they win tournaments. That is why. You're going to have to get over your ego. This is not a specific attack at anybody in particular, but if you're expecting to play Jack Grealish, Jadon Sancho, Phil Foden, Mason Mount, Harry Kane, all in the same team, you're not going to do well. You're building up a scenario in your head where you think this is not Ultimate Team. This is not FIFA. This is actual football where tactics kind of win games and the systems win games, not individual players. So that's my general team. Sterling always gets in good position as well. He might miss, but he's there. Exactly, that's my point exactly. Needing an out-and-out winger as an outlet, yes. Also, if you have Foden in there rather than Sterling, you end up with like 4 like-for-like players. Yeah, that's my point. Who can play in that 10 role, and Harry Kane who likes to drop and get the ball. Yeah, exactly. That's why when we played Austria, we played this 4-2-3-1. That's why we just didn't play well, because we had so many players that played like for like, and we just didn't. Harry Kane was dropping too deep, and when the crosses came in, Harry Kane was all the way back here instead of attacking the box, because that system didn't play well. That's why I prefer the 4-3-3, because this is designed for this forward to have tap-ins in here. If we look back across all the best strikers in history, you can make maybe examples of Pele, maybe R9, maybe Johan Cruyff, but most of those were Johan Cruyff was actually a centre forward, but they scored most of their goals here around the 6-yard box. 6-yard box, second 6-yard box, penalties. They didn't score from like lazy 40-yard runs and slotting it in. No, they scored tap-ins. Gary Lineker, one of the best strikers of all time. Did he score outside the box? No. Did he score outside the 6-yard box? No. He scored tap-ins. And that's the whole point. You get players around him, getting them into scenarios where you can have Harry Kane 6 yards out, 8 yards out, 10 yards out with a shot at goal. You're going to deal with that. You're going to take that all day long.